Oh, it doesn't look like the music's playing. As I recorded this last night, there's a little intro for this, I think. Rah, 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 it's the Daily Vitamins. I got abstract wants, I got fast stack thoughts. Looking at the cosmos, connecting all the dots. If I'm just a point of view, how the fuck could I be lost? Chilling out in space on this big ass rock. It's the Daily Vitamins. Let's rock, let's rock. Alright guys, here we go. I made a little script, a little script within Obsidian because there's a developer console. You can like ping APIs and stuff. So check this out. Bang. We now have a snapshot that is automatically done. Oh, this API is not working. Interesting. It was just working. That's totally unfortunate. Daily Vitamins EP 31. Bang, 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 bang. I guess I could upload the image here. Maybe I'll start doing that actually. I'll have to go through and do these again, I guess, to get that functionality. Today, this would be 32. 32. Wait, man, I think this happens frequently that I'm messing up the dates. Um, this is episode 30 live. Daily Vitamins 30, 31. Interesting. What's going on here then? Did I miss? Maybe this is old. Yesterday's would have been 30. This is 32. Good deal. All right, there it is, guys. I'm loving this. I think this is awesome that this works. So yeah. This should be 4436, I think, right? 4435. Yeah. There you go. Cool. So I've actually been working for several hours already. I got up so early this morning. Um, Today is the Vancouver Marathon. Um, yeah, the BMO Vancouver Marathon. And I live in this dozy part of the city called Dunbar. Um, which is, I don't want to mess up the camera and have this not work properly, but basically right behind me over here is a big ass forest called Pacific Spirit Forest. It's a beautiful place. Um, and um, and yeah, so I guess the run probably, I don't know where it started, but it worked its way around UBC, I imagine, and up Camosun. And man, 8 a.m. this morning, there's just a bunch of volunteers setting up water and tables and stuff like this. And there's just one volunteer that's in a DJ booth, has two big decks, and he's just blasting music, like blasting. Yeah, I couldn't believe it. I was like, whoa, I can hear this. Sounds like it's in earbuds. And it was kind of funny because I didn't say anything, but after like 10 minutes of that, um, you hear a market difference, a market drop in the decibels coming from there. And I think that maybe one of my neighbors probably went up to him like, hey, what the fuck is wrong with you, bro? Nobody wants to hear freaking pop EDM stuff at this hour. I don't need to hear Flow Rider. All right, that was two decades ago. Come on, my bro. Oh man. And I went and looked out there, and I mean, I'm sure you've seen Boiler Room or YouTube, but like this guy's just at these decks 8 a.m. Well, probably 8:30 by this point, just bumping stuff, and he's twist, drop, all stoked. And the hater in me, I was just so cheesed because I'm like, dude, this is too early, man. Sunday, Sunday morning, it's a beautiful spring day. I want to have a peaceful morning. I want to wake up nice and slow and, come to my senses, recognize my first like thoughts, tastes, smells, feelings. I want to do all of that before I hear any Flow Rider. Just bummer. But yeah, my hater almost came in. I almost went up and like, hey man, it's not gonna happen. But that's just messed up. That's not good vibes. That's not good energy. Even me saying it right now is probably not good energy. But it's just what's on my mind right now. Um. All right. All right. All right. Let's play this beat for you. My tea is, like I said, I started much earlier, so I've already had a cup of coffee or an Americano. And my tea is done boiling, so I'm gonna throw in a little beat here. And go get that. Let's go get it sorted. And we'll get to it. All right, all right, all right, all right, all right, all right. All right. So let's think about this. Let's think about this. Um, that's there. I wonder if we could actually just put that in here. Mm, Paste this text. Oh, this is gonna give me a headache. I'm just gonna do this right now. Open new tab, remove, show and closing folder, get info, add the doc. Um, hmm. New folder. Um, yeah. Sorry guys, I'm just gonna clean up my desktop here. I got a lot of files in there, as you just saw. So let's clean that up. Get those away from there. It's too much. Let's make that samples. Nah. Put that in there. Ableton right here. That right there. Screenshots. Um, hmm. I don't know what I want to do with this. Okay. Um, pleasing things. Soon. I already added that. Yes. Um, let's finish this. So, well, let me make some notes here. Um, oh right, dude. Hello, Dylan. Um, date modified today. Oh, did I not put it in there? Okay, that explains. Um, if I put this in assets, let's rename this, right? Rename. Daily vitamins 31. Um, how should this show up? Actually, how am I supposed to be able to view this? Uh, maybe this is from a different workflow. Okay, yeah, I don't want to get away from the point here. It's just enough of that. It's in there now. We'll figure it out. I configure it to do what we're looking for. Another time. Oh, the links up here. Our plans. Okay, plan. So the only thing, the only today's priority is simple. Complete the clay product support specialist. application. So, as a part of that process, what I have been doing is watching some interviews of the CEO, Kareem, or co-founder Kareem, and I'm gonna continue on with that. I'm just trying to make notes of like I'm not exactly sure what. I guess just information about the company, things that resonate. Um, I haven't seen any red flags yet, but maybe red flags, stuff like that, just to have like a total. You know, I read something yesterday, and it's kind of like you want to evaluate the means before you decide, or you want to evaluate the ends, right? You want to determine what the value of the ends are before you allocate your means, or something of that sort. And and I think this resonates with Clay, where I've heard Kareem speak in a fashion that sort of describes this mentality of clarity of mind, collecting as much information as you can, and then using that information to make good decisions. So I think that's what this is primarily. It's just me, just trying to collect more information. I'm definitely gonna apply for this, but um, I think it's good to have as much context going into any of these conversations. And if I'm not mistaken, Clay interview process. Mm. 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 Customer success, I think, is product support specialist or go to market team is dedicated to driving enterprise sales. Yeah, craftsmanship, attention to details. Would expect, yeah, yeah. Okay, so intro call. In this initial call with the recruiter and hiring manager, will share details about the role and the team. We'll also dive into your experience and discuss what you're looking for in your next opportunity. So, questions to make sure we answer, questions to think about, questions to update for yourself before interview. What am I looking for? Opportunity. Which I think I actually have some answers for this on my website, which I recently updated. Full stack TypeScript dev. Uh, ex Microsoft intern UBC BCom plus math minor. With scrappy automations, write rhymes and make beats. Make rhymes, write rhymes, make beats. Auto BTC. Guiding ethic is to feed more than an eighth and find good explanations. I bounce around tech, startups, and public service. Researcher at UBC, ran 200 plus interviews, experiments on consumer behavior, co-founded a hardware venture, failed fast, learned faster. One feather ships electronic election analytics for 50 plus indigenous nations. Designed to support grant for indigenous use and care. Coded features used by 300 million people. Built a pipeline that turns any local business site into a v0.dev redesign. I like understanding problems people face, developing solutions, and showing them why those solutions matter and how they can fit into their lives. I geek out on discovering real world pain, crafting the fix, and pitching it so clean. Folks ask, where has this been my whole life? Oh, yes, that reminds me. So, let's copy this. looking to level up by, which to me is kind of similar to what what I'm looking for in my next. But I want to be in a place where I iterate on team processes. Like I want to understand how do high functioning teams function so highly. And I have my own impressions, and I've been on many different high functioning teams. But yeah, I just want to keep I want to keep growing in that respect. Um, and just I want to be on a team that is iterating, that is thinking about like what's next, and constantly seeking good explanations, better ways of doing things. And so part of iterating on team process is obviously engaging in reviews and collaborating on decisions, as well as contributing to project roadmaps, defining scope, scale, partnering with engineers, with product, with design to deliver user value, troubleshoot, fix bugs, find bottlenecks, improve efficiency, uh, and then giving and receiving feedback to lift the product team and myself. Yeah, I think that really accurately describes what it is I'm looking for. And so that's I don't know if I have much updates around that. I guess well, I'm gonna put this here. And then another thing, this is totally separate, but Alex Hormozy, Hermosi, $100 million leads, I think. Leads. If I have the books on Audible, I guess, or Amazon. And the offers. Okay, cool, cool, cool. So let's go back to this. What does it say? So intro call, steps, intro call, practical excise or a follow-up call. This episode is about helping us get to know you even better and giving you insight into what the role really looks like. We'll tailor this part to the interview to focus on your specific skills that matter most for your position. So I imagine that this will be a practical exercise, which I will submit my sort of demo of Clay. I don't know what this will look like. On-site interview, founder interview. Man, you have the chance to meet our co-founders and learn more about the company's vision and values. Is a great opportunity to discuss how you can contribute to the broader organization. Da 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 da. Oh, it's a great opportunity to discuss how you can contribute to the broader organization. I guess this is probably like, what they really want to hear about is Clay. Um, get rid of Clay. Dude, why does that keep popping up? Uh, Clay Replit prompt values. Yeah, I think it's values. Which of course are FYI culture, which we're gonna make that bigger. Make it work. Do what you can. It's like acknowledge but don't identify. Identify. Identify with like more. Practice your clarity in your mind. Make a good decision. Take, I guess it's like have a belief or hypothesis. Have a belief or hypothesis. Have a belief or hypothesis. This quiet ego is like have a belief or a hypothesis. Sit back, reflect, and be guided about what's best for the team and the company, not just individual success. Acknowledge but don't identify with information. Collect more, gather all of it. Practice your clarity of mind, and make a good decision with the information at hand. Have a belief or hypothesis. Take a real risk. Be honest with yourself. Keep internal compass in order to grow. Lying to yourself. You disassociate and then have harder time knowing feelings. Give energy and you take. Create more than you consume. Okay. And I love the metaphors and the language that they use here. Reference checks, okay. All right, so I guess like screen practical exercise. On-site interview. 3 to 5 interviews with team members. Okay, that's cool. See job openings. As you hear about us additional information. Okay.
Input data and
Oh, is that the one that I was watching? This is the one I was watching.
Someone's been using your product a lot but stopped using it recently, but would use it if you release a new AI feature, you should message them, or has been complaining in gong calls about your support and now you've improved your support. So this go-to-market engineer can turn all of these ideas for growth into reality. And I think those people are getting promoted really quickly, starting agencies as well to help other companies making a lot of money. And so in 2 years, we want this to be a role that's in every company. Each one of these companies is using Clay to grow.
The idea of like a service provider who's using your tool to then sell it to other companies. I mean, it's funny because you're also seeing AI businesses, in the legal space, there's sort of an ongoing debate
Right.
of whether you should be the service business that uses your secret AI tools or sell the AI tool. Yeah, I don't know. Do you worry at all? Like, oh man, if you can build a company to sort of consult just using Clay, we should be sort of selling those consulting services, or how do you think about that ecosystem?
No, we're very much wanting to partner with that ecosystem. And we have a very large number of people making a lot of money building on top of Clay. It's a small percentage of our revenue. Most of our companies use it directly. But if you look at HubSpot, for example, about half of their ARR comes from basically revenue that a consultant has touched. And so you can build a very big business doing that.
Right. Yeah, we almost signed up for HubSpot, and it's like, oh, we'll give you this person to
Yeah.
architect it all. It's like, oh my god,
Right.
I'm going to be spending this money forever. I'm never going to get out of it.
That's exactly what they want.
Right. I walked away at the last second, but I know I said I was going to move on from Clay, but it's super interesting. I mean, how much are you learning from Figma? I mean, I hear like community centric. Are you allowing employees to start using Clay before the company starts paying for it, or what is sort of the adoption sort of journey for most companies?
No, we have a reverse trial. So you get all the features for 2 weeks and then you have to pay.
Right.
Yeah. And so we have a free tier, but we are really selling to people who have a product that they want to grow.
Right.
So our profile is a little bit different than like
It's
Figma
not the
or
rogue
Mailchimp.
employee. It's sort of like, oh no, this company is sort of deciding to
Yes.
consider using it.
Yes. Yeah. And that's a better fit for us.
Yeah. Because it's how come just more intense, or it's like,
Well, it's just more that you need to have something to grow before you can grow it, right? Whereas some other products, like if you're in Figma, you might draw something. It doesn't really matter if the thing exists or not, and you'll
Right.
still be playing around there. So it makes a bit more sense. We're more closely tied to revenue. Once you start making revenue, we can help you grow that.
right. Yeah. Which is why investors are excited. It's like, we're close to the
Right.
money. You can see that you're making
You
more
can
of
see
it.
the effect. Yeah, yes, for sure. And don't forget that the biggest SaaS company in the world, Salesforce, is basically a go-to-market kind of like toolkit. Like it's ostensibly a CRM, but really it's everything that you need to have the information so that you can grow your company.
Do you have the CRM piece of it too, or?
No, I don't think that that's kind of where we want to be. We are
Okay.
a system of action, not a system of record.
I like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
What lessons do you think other startup founders can learn from Clay in terms of building applications, like whether it's the relationship with model companies that you've taken, or sort of anything else that you think is sort of more broadly
Build
applicable that you can give away in other categories?
feel
I think that the
bad
key
for it.
thing, without knowing a specific situation, the core ideas, I think, are you have to have alignment between the various parts of your business. So like, what is your product, right? And how does that align with your go-to-market motion? How do they feed into one another, right? So where do you start, and then how do you take it to the next step? Those things need to make sense, right? So if you are, I'll give you an example, right? We knew that we wanted to have a PLG-driven business. So like people can come and sign up for the product. They don't need to have a demo. So we built the product so that you can use it without needing a demo. And then we figured out who has the most acute problem that is similar to the one we want to solve. And it turns out that there's all these B2B agencies that are helping people grow their companies, but they are at the forefront actually because they're helping so many different companies. So they have the most complicated set of problems. And if we solve theirs, they would go and talk to other people about us. And so we knew that we could help them. And then we can also do the same thing and go directly to companies. The use case is not different. The functionality isn't different. The feature set isn't different. If you're going to help someone and then jump to another set of customers and the functionality is different, that's too far of a leap. It needs to be kind of concentric circles that are overlapping.
You want
again,
your successes to sell your product to somebody else without having to build something totally new.
Exactly. And then you need to have the sales motion to be aligned. You can't start PLG and then suddenly be like, well, everything needs to be sales based in the future because you built a different culture. And you also have to have a unique insight, usually by turning something on its head. So you could build the simplest tool in the world, or you could build a more complicated tool. You need to figure out where are you on that spectrum. And you could build a tool for everyone to use, right? Or one person to use. And those end up those assumptions change what you build.
What do you make of this idea that, sort of, I don't know, software companies are screwed, or it's like, if I'm going to build, I mean, you talk about Salesforce, that was sort of the situation with Klarna. It's like, I'm going to build my own Salesforce, so I won't have to pay them. Like, is it just you have to sort of outrun the capacity of somebody to build it internally, or you think that's sort of overhyped, or what do you think about this idea that every enterprise just builds any application that becomes core to what it's doing?
Yeah, I mean, that's already happening, right? It just depends on how willing you were to spend money on this and how willing you are to kind of set up a team to do this. So a lot of people had Clay-like things internally, the same way that people had built CRMs internally before Salesforce. So there's always a build versus buy conversation in software, whether it skews more to build now because it's cheaper. I think the question is, it's not about building most of the time. It's about maintaining. Everybody knows this, right? It's the total cost of ownership, right? Who is going to maintain this? Who understands how this thing works? Who already is, knowledgeable? Does this look like something else they've seen in the future, or are they starting from scratch? And I personally like the idea of personalized software, right? That you can build something quickly, some internal tool that you need. I do think that for tasks that you're regularly doing and that look similar, total cost of ownership, right? Who is going to maintain this? Who understands how this thing works? Who already is, knowledgeable? Does this look like something else they've seen in the future, or are they starting from scratch? And I personally like the idea of personalized software, right? That you can
Mm.
instruct
build
the
something quick.
system what
Some internal tool
to
that you need. I
do.
do think that for tasks that you're regularly doing and that look similar across every business, that you will still have software off the shelf that is just built to be very configurable very quickly. So that has tons of integrations, that is easy to manipulate or mold right into whatever you want. So I think that software that is very easy to customize will still be in high demand. Yeah, and I think that you're not going to build from scratch. Even if you can build it, the requirements gathering, knowing what to build is still a lot of the work. It's most of the work, by the way.
Right.
Yeah. And
I
so
imagine
you're gonna have to figure that out.
Your data relationships give you sort of a pretty big moat if a customer is using
Totally.
a lot
Yeah.
of them and wants this sort of sense that I can pull from a lot of
Right.
different sets.
Well, even if they're not
What
using
happens
a lot
if
of
I'm
them,
mostly just using like one of them all the time? Like, do you worry about that?
that's not
Customer
possible,
case.
right? Yeah, I'm not super worried about that because everybody has tried to build the one data set that rules them all. But you're working with living entities, people and companies, and there's so many different ways to view that. So there's so many different properties, and you can't have them all. And it's also very different, right? Like you might have data about companies in North America versus companies in Europe. So that hasn't turned out to be the case. There's definitely a moat in all of the data provider relationships and the data cleaning and all that. But I think a lot of the moat is in the workflows, right? Enabling you to build any kind of workflow quickly, no matter what it is. And then also seeing what are the most interesting workflows and enabling that for everybody else, right?
How much do you adjudicate which data source is more accurate or score it? Or you're like, oh, if you're depending on phone numbers, like we think this is the best source versus leaving it up to the customer to sort of pick between multiple lists.
We do a lot of due diligence before kind of working with a data provider, and we have a team that looks into that and compares kind of like, whatever the data is in a particular, set of functionality like technographics or demographics. But we leave the choice to the customers in the end. We'll be doing more and more of that as we figure out ways for us to be really accurate so that we can actually get really high quality information here.
Right. I love the idea of like truth in AI, and obviously with sort of existing companies, there are actual facts, and so you can sort of decide
Right.
over time like what's real and what's translating into
Yeah.
the world as it exists. Do
Yeah.
you use coding apps internally? Or I'm curious, what you guys are obviously super sophisticated. There are lots of them running at each other right now, like Codium, Cursor, Lovable. There's Replit. There's
Yeah.
obviously Claude Code itself goes straight to the source. Like, what are you guys using, and what's your read on how much that's helping Clay build quickly?
A mixture of all of the above. I mean, I think people internally use Cursor. Some people use Windsurf. We don't have a unified kind of ideology.
Go for it.
Yeah.
Use what you want.
I think it's too early to kind of decide. And I think actually letting engineers decide what is best for them. If you're using Bolt or Replit to like whip out, product managers could use this to show like a quick prototype versus if you're using Cursor as your IDE, that's a very different thing. Or
Right.
some people use GitHub Copilot. We're still finding that a lot of like AI code requires, heavy human review, and you also need to know what you're doing so that you understand what you actually implemented. Otherwise, there are like very subtle bugs that you can introduce. My friend Meryl runs a company, Graphite.dev, that does AI agent like code review. Pretty cool. Yeah. So there'll be AI agents doing the review and then you'll review it. It is helping us to move faster for sure, especially if you're writing a lot of boilerplate. I do think that the barrier is still the ideas, how they all work together, coordinating all of these things, and then being able to bring them to market through a unique kind of go-to-market channel. So we use Clay internally as well to figure out like what are the tactics we're using to sell Clay. And I think that you don't want to just build a bunch of low-quality things.
Congrats, mid-stage. I'm here with Kareem Amin, the CEO of Clay, #1 mid-stage company on the Enterprise 30 list that we did with Wing. And so this is our second video after talking to Paul Klein, the browser-based CEO, digging into companies that are now thrust on my radar, where I'm like, oh, I want to know everything about what you guys are doing. Kareem and I were on a panel the other day.
Awesome. With that, as we do with most guests, for anyone who doesn't know, let's start with what is Clay?
So Clay is the way we think about it, the mission for us is really how do we turn any idea for growth into reality really quickly? And we tend to think of that as a creative approach to go to market. So the same way that you might think of Photoshop or Figma as the designers, we are to growth marketing and RevOps teams. And practically speaking, what we do is initially start out by pulling data from every data provider in the world. So we
Need some food, guys. Derby.
aggregate all of these so you can have the best data about companies and people, and then use that to narrow down a hypothesis about who your target customer is and what you should say to them. And we run that for you.
It's awesome. You've realized a ton of success, and we're going to talk about that and how you've realized that a little bit later in the show. One thing that I'm curious on before we jump into the topics that we've outlined, how did you identify this problem that you are going after and then design the solution that you have come up with around it? I look at your background. You co-founded a company that I don't believe was in this space. So you're a second-time founder. And that, of course, is great and applicable experience, but it's not domain specific. And then product leader at Wall Street Journal, like kind of the same idea there. It's not necessarily in this category. So I'd love to learn, what was the approach that you went through? How'd you figure out this opportunity exists and then solve it in such a successful way?
The ambition that my co-founder and I had when we started the company was, how do we give the power of programming to an order of magnitude more people? Mainly, how do we give you access to telling machines what to do so that you can get some of the value that machines are providing in the 21st century? That's this very abstract intention. And then from there, we did this analysis where we started looking at the different forms that you can bring programming to people. I think my co-founder in particular actually started prospecting to find customers and realized very quickly that it's a very ad hoc and difficult process because the data isn't always accurate, right? If the data was accurate, then you could just look at one database, use that, and target people. But actually, the data wasn't always accurate, was very varied depending on who you're looking to target, and also changed all the time. And we realized that we could use our own product to do that pretty early on. And then it took us some time to consolidate around that vision and to narrow down giving the power of programming to go-to-market people. That intention became clearer, and then committing to that intention and reframing the mission to being, how do we help businesses grow by applying different kind of growth campaigns? That was the rest of the journey.
And I think for those listening who aren't familiar with the Clay story, it's like fast forwarding from those early beginnings. Kareem and Clay announced raising $50+ million at a $500 million valuation from many of the best investors in the world, like Sequoia and Meritech. And congrats on realizing that success. And I know you probably think about it as we're still in the early innings of this business. Okay, two topics that I and we want to jump into today. The first one is one that we've never touched on this show, and I think it's time to. So that one is revenue systems. And I can't think of anyone better to have on the show to speak to us about the evolution of revenue systems, things that exist today with the incorporation of AI and so much focus on increased productivity, like where we are today, how folks should be leveraging these different systems, and where you see the future going. So I think that'll be a really interesting conversation. And then if there is time, would love to learn how Clay has approached go-to-market and realized the type of success that you have in such a short amount of time. With that, let's kick off with the first topic, and maybe I will set the stage for something that I'm intimately familiar with, and then I would love to learn along with the audience, like where things are today, because you're going to have a much better pulse on that than I will. And then, as I mentioned, forward-looking. My experience with systems is something like in 2007 or 8, when I first joined a company as an SDR, I used Salesforce. And over time, we bolted on different systems depending on the needs of the business and what existed in the marketplace. And so one of the first ones was something like ZoomInfo, where now we were able to get people's contact information. I think it was called DiscoverOrg back in the day. And so then now I could import some email addresses into Salesforce from DiscoverOrg. And then the next evolution was maybe Outreach came out, and I was able to email a bunch of these people instead of one at a time. And then maybe Gong came out, and I was able to start, instead of joining one-off calls with all of the sales reps on my team, I was able to record the calls and maybe listen to them at 10 o'clock at night when I didn't have to join the call live. And we just continued down this path of bolting on more and more point solutions into the hub of Salesforce. And then the last thing that I would say is my experience with these systems is I would describe them as reactive data repositories, where when you buy Salesforce or when you buy Gong or when you buy Outreach, it really requires the user to input data and instruct the system what to do. And much of the strategy and opinions that are then ingrained in one set of systems are driven by the humans that are using those systems. I think we're starting to see that change. And I would love to learn from you a couple things. One is where are we today in the existing set of systems? How have those changed over the last couple of years? And where the topic of the day is AI, and probably will be for some time. Where is AI good and effective? And where is it still maybe a bit of a pipe dream or not quite there yet?
Yeah, totally. I think that's a great summary and makes a lot of sense to me. I think maybe the lay of the land is really, you can either empower SDRs with the tools that you were talking about, then give more and more tools to become more and more productive. You could either try to automate all of that away, or you could take a bunch of these tasks to be done and move them on to someone else, centralize them, and allow someone to be able to automate the pieces that are automatable. right? Hopefully that kind of makes sense. And that'll map out actually to the different companies in the market. There's companies who are either building AI co-pilots or trying to build tools to make SDRs more productive. And I think that there's a market for that. And then there's tools that are coming out saying, let's just be an AI SDR. And then there are tools like Clay that are saying we're going to use both data enrichment and AI to centralize the power to someone else, maybe like a RevOps person or a go-to-market ops person who will be able to automate these tasks. SDRs will still be there, but they'll be doing more follow-ups, more calls, things that are not automatable yet. And I think that also maps to what you were talking about as what is AI doing really well right now, and where is there still maybe promise, but not practical reality, the application practical reality. I think really the dream is probably that you don't want to be doing any manual data writing into your CRM, right? And I think where AI is good is doing research. So account research is really good. I think scoring is going to be really good with AI. LLMs are both good at generating things. So like generating summaries. You want to know, go to this website, figure out what this company does and what market is it in, right? Or tell me a couple of the customers that this company has through ingesting that data and figuring it out. LLMs are also good at search. And it's a different type of search, right? It's almost like a contextual search. So you can use it for scoring. So it's a new way of saying, okay, are these things similar? Which is why I think it will be used in scoring. So those are things that it's good at. It's also good at generating short snippets of data that are relevant for communicating, whether it's by email or elsewhere. And I think those three things it's really good at. I think the things where it's still aspirational is the dream around like an auto GPT. So a mission, you give it a mission, and LLMs are really good at generating a plan and then trying to execute that plan. But I don't think it's fully autonomous. And that's where the promise of AI SDRs is. You just say, here are a list of my customers, or here's my CRM, connect to my CRM, see who my customers are, and go find me more like them. And the number of tasks that or the decisions that you need to make to do that are the space of possibilities is quite large. And an LLM can create a plan for that and execute it. I think the problem is when that plan gets commoditized pretty quickly, when that plan doesn't go as planned, how do you get the feedback back in? And how do you make it improve over time in a way that doesn't lead to something that will be dismissed by a human? So even if it does it really well, it still has to pattern break in some way to get your attention. I do think our brains are really good at realizing that this is being able to sort things that are crap from not. And unless AI SDRs are able to do that, I think it might be a temporary dead end for now until we get an order or two of magnitude of improvement in LLMs, which could happen very quickly.
I love this. Let me try and recap and then go from there. I believe what I heard from you, to just boil it down to a few very specific things, that, and maybe the right framing for this is something like, you started Clay, let's call it 2 years ago. Does that sound right?
No, it was a while longer than that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's say a few years ago, like the way that systems would be leveraged in technology companies, and what is different today from the way that systems in like a perfect world of fully optimizing for the best technology that's available. What is different today from what people were doing, let's call it 3 years ago, before effectively the introduction of AI? What I heard from you is a few different things. One is account scoring and determining who to target. LLMs are really effective at that. Another thing that I heard from you is firmographic information. So like capturing information about the companies and people that you are targeting. LLMs and AI are very good at that, and you should be doing that today. The third thing that I heard from you is you shouldn't be manually inputting data into Salesforce. And so LLMs are good at probably taking, my interpretation of what you said is something like transcribing calls that have been recorded and any email communication that you had with potential customers, and taking that information and updating CRM. The LLMs are going to be better than like the average human at that specific activity. So I'll pause there. Does that sound right? Is like just repeating what I heard and where technology today should be leveraged?
Yeah, exactly. So it's in summarizing the data from calls and emails. It's the kind of getting new information through website scraping, and then it's also using AI to score based on similarity. The only thing I think is missing is also generating like value props that you can then, based on that account research and the summarized kind of email and phone conversation, so that you can send that message.
Makes sense. And then Kareem, I heard one thing from you on what LLMs or just systems more broadly aren't as good at today. And I'll try and repeat that. And then I'll try and come up with one of my own as well. And then the thing that I heard from you is, I will summarize it by just saying like replacing SDRs entirely, which is deploy a SDR bot, go figure out who to reach out to, what message to send to them, respond to their objections, schedule a meeting at the time that they want to schedule it. And we're not yet there where humans can be entirely replaced from that process. And so before I move on to the one that I want to pressure test is a different one, does that sound right?
Yeah, that sounds right. And I don't think that we're super far away from that, but I think there are some hurdles that make it so that if you fully rely on that, you might not be getting the results that you want, because any kind of breakdown in any of those steps is a disaster, right?
Yes. And I think we've all received emails that I would describe, or I certainly have, that I would describe as AI hallucinations. That, yeah, I get an email. It's so obvious that a human didn't write this email and it doesn't make any sense. And so then that would be an example of a breakage in that process.
Yep.
And then the one that I would add that I haven't yet seen a solution for or an effective one is, I don't think that AI can yet replace like the creativity that I see in one-off campaigns. And I think about some of the most effective campaigns that I have produced myself or observed different companies making. These are like humans coming up with something that's very on brand for their product and company that has either never been done before or like never been done to the way that they are executing it. And I've talked about a lot of these examples on this show in the past, but I think it's hard to replace the sort of creativity of one-off campaigns to really stand out through these systems today.
Totally agree.
Perfect. So we've talked about like the environment that exists today, and hopefully folks are coming away with ideas that maybe you aren't leveraging this technology for some of the specific things that Kareem highlighted, maybe you should look into doing. Where are we going? We talked about this, even if it was just 2 years ago. I think the list of 4 that we came up with really weren't possible, even just 2 years ago. If we think 12 and 24 months into the future, what's next?
I think in the immediate future, there are lots of, so the things that I mentioned are still not being fully applied across, they're being applied in like bits and pieces, essentially, and not coordinated with each other. So maybe there is an AI scoring tool and account research, but how's that connected to the messaging? So I think there's going to be a way to put all of this together to really do a full end-to-end go-to-market campaign that basically starts off from, let's ingest all of your CRM data and maybe all of your marketing material and your website. Let's look at all of that information, identify using scoring your best customers today. What about them makes them a great customer? What predicts it? Let's go out and find more customers like that. Let's prepare a bunch of different campaigns based on your value props, and then let you adjust that and get creative with that like preparation in hand and see, hey, did your campaign work or not? So we're going to be more data-driven about the results of these go-to-market campaigns and also use AI to generate them and then tweak them with our creative ideas. So I think the end-to-end aspect is what we're going to see of more in the next 12 months. In the next 24 months, I'm staying open-minded.
Awesome. And then how do you see AI or the systems that AI is incorporated in influencing the org design or like team construction that exists specifically within tech companies? And I think maybe a couple different directions to take this is something like, do functions continue to exist? Can we automate away entirely certain functions? Does it influence where certain functions report? Does it influence the size of these different teams? Just curious if you have a perspective on that.
Yeah, I think that the things that we're seeing and that we feel, and that this is for sure kind of to be taken with a grain of salt because it's also very aligned with what we believe about the market. But I think it's that sales, marketing, customer success are becoming go-to-market. And you're thinking more holistically about the different sales, marketing, and success basically align with the different stages that a prospective customer can be in, right? It's almost like prospect, lead, user, and then customer. And I think we're seeing that becoming, there's go-to-market teams that need to do like the creative thinking, the planning, the human elements. And then there's a GTM ops team that uses tools and AI to facilitate kind of the work of the GTM team. And that people are thinking about, and why would this not have been happening before? It was, but the difference is that now with the ability to work with more information at a time, at one time, right, through AI, where you're like, okay, let's take our value prop and then create materials for sales and for marketing and for customer success, and it has a cohesive message. I think we're seeing the ability to consolidate those teams so that they are actually thinking about the customer journey together, and they're not like these siloed teams. And then there's an overarching team that enables them.
That makes sense. I will, and like you, I keep an open mind on all of this stuff because the reality is I don't totally know. And here's maybe the trend that I'm seeing, and then I'll contradict that with some pattern matching to history. The trend that I expect to see is just compression of team sizes. And I think we're already seeing this on the engineering side, where engineering teams are compressing or at least can accomplish so much more than they historically have been able to, just in terms of producing products at a faster rate. And so then if we apply the same mindset to go to market, I think we will not need this sort of army of SDRs, let's say, to accomplish the same amount of activity, pipeline generation, however we want to frame it, than we have needed historically speaking. Now, I think the counter to that is I would have said the same thing we talked about previously earlier on the show, like outreach. And I was an SDR. And it took me so long to like manually click on somebody's email address and like copy and paste, make sure like the formatting is correct and whatever else I would need to do. Sometimes I would tap marketing's shoulder and say, can we do a blast through Marketo or whatever? But like you would think that outreach or email sequencing tool like that would have made an individual SDR 5 to 10x more effective, especially if they're heavily reliant on outbound email. And I think we actually saw the opposite. The size of SDR teams in 2020, many years after these products were introduced, was significantly greater than the sort of like size or investment made in SDR in 2012 when they first came to market, something like that.
Well, look, companies are not trying to be efficient. Companies are trying to grow. And so if I give you a way to grow faster, then you're just going to say, if we had more people and this thing is more efficient, then we grow even faster. And so I'm going to try to add more people if possible. I think that makes sense with outreach, right? If one person could send to 10, and now you can say one person can send to 100. Now I'm going to just hire 10 people to send to.
Okay, I think really good segue, especially as we've talked about like how systems will evolve people within businesses and so many of these tactics. Let's talk about Clay specifically. You have taken the market by storm, where I think when you and I were first connected, most people hadn't heard of Clay. Like I hadn't heard of Clay when Mike introduced us. And today, many go-to-market organizations, I'm sure there's still some opportunity, but so many are currently using Clay. And I think you have found a spot on the like revenue stack list of cutting edge companies. So I want to talk about how you have achieved that. Maybe as a starting point, where are you today? What does go-to-market at Clay look like?
We're still pretty small. So we probably have 8 people on the GTM engineer team, maybe 2 people on the ops.
Okay.
The company is really 55 people.
And the reason that I started there is something like, I imagine you are leveraging the systems and this technology as effectively as any company could be, just given what you do as a business. And so curious how that sort of manifests in effectiveness, productivity, efficiency on a per rep basis. I would imagine that if we map where you are in terms of growth and ARR, that most companies that are at a similar stage have more people. And so then I'm curious, do you attribute, assuming you agree, do you attribute that to better leveraging systems than counterparts?
I do agree. And I think we're quite a bit smaller than other companies that are at the same kind of revenue metrics. And I do think it is, I think it's, to be completely honest, I think it's both due to the systems that we set up and due to the profile of people that we're hiring. So we've been hiring people into some of these roles that sometimes have CS degrees, but want to be on the sales side of things, or are technical in some way, or are open to learning how to do this quickly. So just to give you an example, our interview for this role is do something in Clay and surprise us, and then just explain what you did. So the goal here is, can you figure out how to use a tool that has an infinite ceiling? Can you do something creative that would get us to be excited? And then can you present it in a way that makes sense? So it's a very simple prompt that actually tests a bunch of things.
Additional info section.
Where you going? I'm gonna go grab batteries from the garage door over. See if it works. Maybe you go to Dunbar. Where? Dunbar. Dunbar Mart? Yeah. Why? I thought it was more expensive there. Well, it's nowhere I can get it that's cheap.
Fair enough. Support local business. So in an interview Kareem had done, additional information section of the application. I saw in an interview that Kareem had done. I've watched approximately 5 hours of interviews from Kareem and Varun. Watched 5 hours of interviews from 5 hours of interviews. Approximately 5 hours of interviews done by both Kareem and Varun.
Tanner's gonna be here in 10 minutes. We'll have those keys. You know. I just wanted to let you know. Yeah. Huh? I believe you. Because you're good or shorts.
Yo, he's here. Sick.
He's not here. Crazy guy.
I promise you he is.
Got him good. I got him. Don't already left. Fuck. Where do you want to go? What? Where do you want to go to get your pizza? Oh, fuck. I mean, wherever you go. I mean, I'm sure you guys have done before. Anybody go right away? Or, I mean, we can go right away if you'd like. Yeah. Well, I don't have the keys, so George has got it. Oh, well, let George. As long as it gets done before we work, it doesn't have to be like right now, but I know you guys like to lean and shit, so, and would prefer the door locked.
I never like it. Only when I go to bed.
Fair.
That's why I don't have a key.
Yeah, I left all my shit here. Eh?
Sure did.
Good boys.
Tisk, tisk, tisk.
You know.
It's in the alley though, so you should probably
Oh, these.
collect that before somebody does.
What are you guys doing today? You good?
Just hanging around.
Just hanging around?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You guys will try some of this shit. Sipping on your drinks.
Yeah, that
while
looked
you're
really
waiting.
tasty. I wasn't sure where to put it. Oh, hey, also, I have a table in the garage if you want to use that.
For like a desk. It's like the same size. Oh, if it's the same size as that, I would 100% take it.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Dude, that Talby place is sick.
Oh, you went?
Yeah, I went to North Van
Last night or today?
this morning.
Oh, nice. Yeah, it's awesome, right?
Dude, the cold one is no joke. I was hopping. It was like 2 degrees. Shit
Mhm.
was fucking cold. Dude, yeah.
Yeah, real cool.
Like, it's
Mhm. It's a vibe.
dude, where you going? In your jorts. On the beach or what? Let's go to the beach.
Bro, it looks like Zelhan right now.
We're in the beach, bro. There's no business. And then I'm
Also, dude, I smelled the chair. It is definitely the grease from your.
It is,
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's
Not that I really notice it right now, but yeah, it definitely like. When we smelled it, I was like, oh yeah, that's what it is for sure. Yeah, you could also use Tide, like dish soap.
blanket spent for that shit.
Are the man about to go to Home Depot? Is that what's about to happen?
I mean, I'll go like if we have both keys, I'll go right now. But we have to do it now. Yeah, I gotta run a few errands anyway.
What does that mean?
I gotta get the batteries,
Uh-huh.
and then I gotta pick up a medication from the hospital
Where's the hospital?
downtown. So what else did I fucking need? Probably your baseball bats and boots and shit. And your fucking clubs.
Your clubs, your baseball bat, your
Where do you play? Is it all in the
Tee-
garage?
Yeah.
Oh, you guys are. This is why we do it.
No, me. I am.
We'll do it.
Nobody else. Nobody else. I dare you.
Hey, where's that Tide shit go? Tide? Yeah, the cold punch was legit. The song was legit. Had the fucking essential oils going.
Mm-hmm.
Rick Helfer would do this shit, you know,
In the cold tub?
well, she like half-ass went in it, but she like didn't stay in there for more than a minute, and she was like in the fucking
The cool
warm one. I was
yeah.
like, bro.
Yeah, Teresa hasn't really dove into. Yeah, Teresa won't get in the cold one either. I'm like, come on, dude.
Dude, it's
Mind over matter.
the cold one is like what 2 degrees, bro. Fuck, that was easily the coldest cold I've ever hopped into.
Yeah.
And right away, I was like, I'll just go to the coldest one. Hopped in there. Fuck. I couldn't do more than 30 seconds.
Dude, it gets to the point where I'm actually like, by like the fourth or fifth time that I dunk it into the cold one, I'll actually just leave my fingertips and my toes out. Like I'll just like hold it like that. But I'm like, dude, it's not that bad just chilling like this. But my toes, my hands just get like it like burns. It's so cold, you know.
Abs hurt.
I'm like, nah, I'm good on it.
I forgot about the fucking marathon today. You guys front row seat here.
Dude. Oh my gosh, man.
What's this because it's loud?
Dude,
And then you were like,
well, the woo part is fine, whatever. But like there's this guy. He had a turntables up, bro. He's jamming like some like shitty pop EDM stuff, which is fine, you know, whatever. That's the thing. I don't care. But I don't really like it, so I'm like, uber like, fuck. And it's dude 8 a.m. This guy had it. I swear to God, as loud as it could possibly be. 10 minutes later, after it really starts, and I don't know how long I was asleep before I woke up to it, but I could hear it just clear as day. I was like, holy shit, dude, like, why is it so loud?
Did you say anything?
No, not yet. Well, I went and talked to one of the guys about it, but after like 10 minutes of that, I just hear like a market turn down of it, and I was like, oh, I bet one of the neighbors was like, hey, fuckhead, there's no way your permit allows you to play it this loud. No way. There was a homie here just like blocking up the road, and I like went up to him. I was like, this is like 20 minutes after I woke up from it, and I was like, hey, is this fucking guy gonna be playing like the whole day? Like, how long is this gonna go on for? And he's like, probably to the end of the marathon. I was like, when is that? He said, like 10:30. I was like, oh, word.
10:30 a.m.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's just like, were you sleeping? I was like, what? Or he's like, are you sleeping? I was like, I was, yeah. Who would have thought? Sunday morning, 8 a.m. Just trying to slowly come to my senses, recognize all my feelings and thoughts and tastes and smells, and I just hear Flow Rider. I'm like, come on, man.
Dude, I was so fucking hungover this morning. I'm driving there. I felt so down about it. Damn. Afterwards, I'm feeling yeah.
You guys get up to just play pool or what?
Yeah, I went to the comedy show, which was at 7:30, and it ended like kind of early, like 9 or something like that, 9:30. So then we just went to Stinky Pete's, played, kicked her ass in some pool, and then just went back to her place. Nice.
Cool, dude.
Yeah, and then did whatever mentality, and then went somewhere commercial. It's called Bee House. It's pretty good actually. Bee House. It's amazing.
Nice.
And now I'm just gonna veg out for the rest of the day and do whatever. Nice. Fucking George, man, hurry up. Why were you and George going, bro? You gonna go get those skis cut? Are you just you and him gonna go? No, you're gonna come, right? I know, but like, it sounds like you're doing like errand and shit. I don't really want to go for that. True. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, it doesn't have to be today. Like, it could be tomorrow. And I could just go with George whenever. Why does he have to?
Well,
Because he's the only one that got the key. I just like
Teresa.
can't just give you the key and you just go with George. No, like I'll do it. Like I'll do it tomorrow, but like the people don't need to come. Like Teresa doesn't need to fucking come. Okay.
well, if you want to do it today, I can go with you. We can just go now. I can get Teresa's key.